Have you ever walked into a small, quiet home, no luxury, no perfection, and felt something shift inside you? Not because of the furniture or the colors on the wall, but because every inch of that space seemed to be in harmony. You couldn't explain it, but suddenly, your shoulders relaxed, your breathing slowed, your mind went still. It was as if the room itself whispered, "You're safe. You're home." That's exactly what I felt when I stepped into the house of an elderly Japanese woman named Noriko. She's 80 years old, lives alone in a small American suburb, and keeps her home as calm and welcoming as a warm cup of tea from her childhood in Kyoto. There's nothing extravagant about her space, no expensive gadgets, no endless decorations, but every corner speaks. It says, "Someone lives here with intention." For a long time, I believed that keeping a home clean and peaceful took youth, strength, or perhaps a team of professional cleaners. But Noriko quietly taught me something else. Through the way she lives, she revealed that creating order is not about having more energy. It's about having less chaos. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing small things gently, again and again, until they become part of who you are. This isn't a video about cleaning tips or storage hacks. It's a story, a reflection, and maybe a mirror. Because the truth is, many of us, especially as we get older, start to feel that our homes are no longer a place of rest. They become heavy with things, memories, and decisions we keep postponing. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if peace could return to your home, not through big changes, but through 7 quiet shifts? Habits so simple they almost go unnoticed, yet so powerful they change the rhythm of your day. What you're about to hear isn't a list to check off. It's a way of seeing differently, a new relationship with the things you live with and the life you're still living. These habits don't require youth. They don't need money, and they don't demand a complete lifestyle overhaul. They only ask you to start small, slow, soft, and to trust that even the tiniest changes, when done with care, can open up space not just in your home, but in your heart. So take a deep breath. This is not a challenge. It's an invitation to return to yourself, one gentle habit at a time. Noriko didn't set out to impress anyone with her home. In fact, when I first visited, she apologized for its simplicity. But as I looked around, I realized it wasn't the size of her house or the design of her furniture that struck me. It was the way everything felt settled, like it knew where it belonged. The television remote wasn't lost between cushions or under a newspaper. It rested in a small wooden tray on the coffee table, as if it always returned there after use. Her slippers, neatly placed by the door, pointed inward like 2 quiet guardians of order. The towel in the bathroom was folded with care, not for display, but because it deserved to rest as well. I asked her, a bit amazed, if she spent hours cleaning every day. She smiled softly, poured us both tea, and said, "I don't tidy, I just bring things back home." That sentence stayed with me. Not I organize, not I clean, but I bring them home, as if every item in her house had a soul. And like us, it simply wanted to return to its place. I began thinking about my own home, about how often I leave cups near the window, toss jackets over chairs, or let my keys wander from coat pockets to kitchen counters to that one drawer. We all have the drawer that eats things. What I thought were harmless habits suddenly felt like messages I was sending myself. I'll deal with it later. I don't have time. It doesn't matter. But Noriko's approach was different. by honoring the return of every object. She wasn't just preventing mess, she was protecting her own mental space. She was creating a rhythm where everything had its place. And in turn, so did she. I decided to try just one thing, always placing the remote control back in the same spot after use. It seemed silly at first, almost too small to matter. But within days, something subtle began to change. I didn't waste time looking for it. I didn't get annoyed. I wasn't distracted. That little act, barely 10 seconds long, freed up far more energy than I expected. It made me realize that disorder is often not about laziness. It's about disconnection. When objects lose their place, we lose a bit of ours too. Noriko taught me that the first step to a tidy home isn't organizing, it's remembering. Remembering where things live. Remembering that your home is a living relationship, not a storage facility. And when you start bringing things home, you start bringing yourself home too. As we sat sipping tea, I noticed something else. A tiny drop of liquid had spilled onto the table. Noriko, without pausing her sentence, picked up a cloth and wiped it gently. It took all of 2 seconds. Then she set the cloth down and continued talking as if nothing had happened. No fuss, no delay. I asked her about it, and she simply said, "If something takes less than a minute, I do it now." That hit me harder than I expected, because I thought about how often I let small tasks pile up: a cup in the sink, a crumpled shirt on the bed, a wrapper left on the counter. Not because I'm messy, but because I tell myself, later. But later never arrives the way we think it will. It brings more cups, more shirts, more wrappers. Soon, a 5-second task becomes a mountain I don't want to climb. Noriko doesn't allow that mountain to form. She doesn't clean because she's motivated. She cleans because she respects the moment. She finishes small things before they grow into big problems, not just for the sake of appearance, but to keep her mind clear. There's something powerful about that. We often say, "I'm too tired to clean." But what if we're tired because we keep carrying unfinished tasks in our minds, like a heavy backpack we never take off? What if wiping a counter or folding a blanket wasn't a chore, but a quiet way to reset? I decided to test this habit too. I made one rule: if it takes less than 60 seconds, I'll do it now. No debate, no excuses, just action. At first, it felt mechanical, but after a few days, it began to feel like kindness toward my future self. When I walk into the kitchen and see a clean sink, I silently thank myself from an hour ago. It's a gentle loop of care. One day, I got an email from a viewer named Elaine. She's 74, lives alone in Minnesota, and told me she began with just one habit: wiping the bathroom sink right after brushing her teeth. That's it. But something about it shifted her entire morning. She started noticing more little things she could finish on the spot. Now, she folds her towel, she puts her comb away, she straightens her bedside lamp. I'm not faster. She wrote, "I'm just lighter." That's the gift these habits offer. Not control, but ease. Not perfection, but rhythm. And the beauty is, you don't need to do everything. You just need to begin. With a remote, with a cup, with 1 minute of your time. Because in the end, a peaceful home isn't built overnight. It's built in quiet, ordinary moments, moments that say, I care enough to take care of this, and I care enough to take care of me. One afternoon, I stood in Noriko's kitchen and noticed something remarkable. There was so little. 1 pot, 1 pan, 2 bowls, 2 pairs of chopsticks. That was it. The fridge was organized but sparse. No expired sauces, no overstuffed shelves. Everything had its purpose. Everything got used. I asked her, "Don't you ever feel the need to stock up just in case?" She looked at me gently and replied, "I used to." But then I realized I was preparing for a life I no longer lived. Her words opened something inside me. I thought of my own cupboards, that old juicer I used once, the baking dishes I kept out of guilt because someone gave them to me, the sweater I didn't like but couldn't let go of. How much of our homes are filled with past versions of ourselves, or worse, fears of the future? Noriko's approach is radically present. She keeps only what serves her today, not what might be useful, not what carries emotional obligation. Only what she truly uses and appreciates now. And the result? Her home doesn't feel empty. It feels clear, purposeful, alive. This isn't about minimalism as an aesthetic. It's about emotional honesty. She told me, keeping something is like keeping a little piece of your mind attached to it. When we hold on to too much, we leave no room for lightness. So I started asking myself different questions when I picked up an item in my home, not, could this be useful someday, but is it useful to me now? Do I love it? Does it add peace or weight? And sometimes, just asking the question was enough to reveal the answer. Letting go didn't feel like loss. It felt like freedom. It was around that time that I noticed another quiet ritual in Noriko's life. After we had finished tea one evening and I was about to say goodbye, she gently said, "Just a moment," and disappeared into the kitchen. I expected her to be gone for a while, but within 5 minutes, she returned. During that time, she had placed the cups back on the shelf, washed the tray, wiped the table, and adjusted 2 chairs that had shifted. I asked her, "Do you do this every night?" She nodded. "Yes, just 5 minutes. To say goodbye to the day." There was something profoundly beautiful about that. It wasn't about making the home spotless. It was about closure, completion, a soft full stop at the end of the sentence of the day. I thought about how often I left things undone, dishes in the sink, a towel on the couch, crumbs on the counter, and told myself I'd handle it in the morning. But the morning always felt heavier when it started with yesterday's mess. Noriko's 5-minute habit was like a small bow, a gesture of gratitude and preparation. She wasn't scrubbing, she wasn't rushing, she was simply returning her space to stillness so that the next day could begin with calm. I decided to try it too. Before bed, I chose just 3 things. 1, wipe the kitchen counter. 2, rinse the mug and place it upside down on the rack. 3, straighten the blanket on the couch. That was all. Less than 5 minutes. But when I woke up, something felt different. Not just in the room, but in me. There was no resistance, no silent pressure, just readiness. And I began to wonder how much of our restlessness comes not from what we do, but from what we leave undone. Noriko's small ritual wasn't a chore. It was a gift to herself, a whisper that said, "You did enough today. Now let it go." It was during these quiet evenings that I began to notice something else about her home. Something subtle, but transformative. Every space had a purpose. The dining table was only for eating. The living room had 1 chair, 1 small table, and a shelf with just a few books. No mail scattered, no devices left behind. The kitchen wasn't a workspace. The couch wasn't a bed. When I asked her about it, she said, "Each space should remind the body what it's for. Resting is for resting. Eating is for eating. If everything blends, the mind can't focus." I thought about how I lived. eating meals on the sofa while watching TV, using my kitchen counter as a desk, leaving my laptop on the dining table, and then wondering why my home never felt peaceful, why I was always distracted, always scattered. Noriko's home wasn't bigger than mine, but it felt larger because it wasn't overloaded with mixed intentions. Each area held a single, sacred role. So I made a decision to restore the purpose of my spaces. I cleared the dining table, no more paperwork or laundry baskets, just plates, napkins, and a candle. I moved my laptop to a small desk in the corner of the bedroom. I stopped eating on the sofa, and the effect was almost immediate. Meals became quieter. Work felt more focused. Rest felt deeper. It wasn't about rules, it was about rhythm. I no longer had to fight for clarity. My home began giving it to me. Noriko's philosophy wasn't about being rigid, it was about being intentional. When we blur the boundaries of our spaces, we blur the boundaries of our attention. But when each area knows its purpose, we feel more grounded, more able to rest, to create, to simply be. And that, I've come to believe, is the real reason her home feels so peaceful. It's not because it's clean, it's because it knows who it is. And so does she. There was one evening, just before I left Noriko's house, when I noticed something that looked almost ceremonial. After washing the teacups and setting them down to dry, she walked quietly through the house. She picked out clothes for the next day and placed them on a chair. She wiped the kitchen counter again, even though it was already clean. She checked that the doors were locked. Then she poured herself a glass of water and set it on her nightstand. None of it took more than 10 minutes, but it didn't feel like routine. It felt like reverence. I asked her, "Do you always do all this at night?" She nodded and replied, "Morning is the most fragile time. So I clear the path the night before." That sentence went straight to my heart because I knew exactly what she meant. There were mornings when I would wake up already behind searching for clothes, for keys, for energy. I would fumble through the kitchen, bumping into yesterday's dishes, trying to figure out what I needed. My mind was already anxious before the day had even begun. Noriko didn't have that chaos. She didn't rush. She didn't forget. And it wasn't because she had more time, it was because she used the night to honor the morning. What struck me was how little she did, yet how much difference it made. She wasn't over-preparing. She was simply saying, "I care enough about myself to make things gentle for tomorrow's version of me." That night, I went home and did something simple. I chose my shirt for the next day and placed it neatly on a hanger. I filled a bottle of water and left it on the table. I made sure my keys were in the tray. It all took less than 5 minutes. But when I woke up, something was different. I didn't have to decide what to wear. I didn't have to hunt for anything. There were no tiny obstacles waiting, just space, quiet, ease. And suddenly, I understood what Noriko meant by clearing the path. It wasn't about being productive. It was about being kind. It was about walking into the day feeling supported not by others, but by yourself. That single habit, preparing at night, became a form of self-care I hadn't known I needed. It reminded me that caring for your future self doesn't require money or time. It only requires intention. But perhaps the most powerful moment I ever witnessed in Noriko's home came not from what she cleaned, but from what she cherished. After washing our teacups for the final time, she held hers gently in both hands, dried it slowly, and then before placing it on the shelf, paused. She bowed her head slightly and whispered something I couldn't hear. I asked her what she was doing. She said simply, thanking the cup. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a habit formed from superstition. It was sincere. I thank it for serving me today, she added. Even things have spirits. They walk with us. And when they're done, they deserve to rest. I stood there, speechless. In that small gesture, she revealed the final layer of her peaceful home gratitude. Not gratitude as a thought, but as a practice, as a daily interaction with the ordinary. It made me look around my own home differently. How many items had I ignored, tossed, stored, or broken without thought? How many clothes had I kept out of guilt? How many dishes had I never liked but still used? How many things had I never once thanked? Noriko's home wasn't peaceful just because it was organized. It was peaceful because it was loved. She didn't own expensive things, but she respected every item as if it had value. And in return, her home felt like a place that wanted to care for her too. I began to try this myself. Just once a day. I thanked something, a mug that held my morning coffee, a chair that supported me through a difficult conversation, a sweater that kept me warm in the wind. And slowly, something changed, not in my house, but in my heart. I began to let go of things I didn't truly appreciate. I stopped buying things I didn't need. I started noticing the life around me, not in big, dramatic ways, but in the tiniest of details. The weight of a spoon, the fold of a blanket, the softness of light falling on my bookshelf. I realized that gratitude isn't just a feeling. It's a form of belonging. Noriko once said to me, people don't feel at home in their house because they've forgotten how to be at home in themselves. Her habits, every single one, led back to that truth. A home isn't tidy because it's perfect. It's tidy because it's cared for. And care doesn't begin with scrubbing floors or buying storage bins. It begins with remembering the purpose of a place, the role of a moment, the value of a simple, useful object, and above all, the gift of being alive inside your own space. So here they are again, not as instructions, but as reminders. 7 gentle shifts that can bring peace, not just to your surroundings, but to your soul. Return things to their place. Do what takes less than a minute. Keep only what you truly use. Spend 5 minutes each night bringing the day to a close. Let each space have a purpose. Prepare tomorrow by honoring tonight. And above all, be grateful for the little things that carry you through every day. You don't need to do them all at once. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to begin. Maybe with a teacup, maybe with a folded shirt, maybe with the next minute. If this story has touched you, if it reminded you of someone, or even of the person you want to be again, I hope you'll leave a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear how you bring calm into your own home, especially as the years pass and the world moves faster. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Not because I want more numbers, but because I want you to be part of this quiet conversation we're building together. A conversation about homes and habits and how to live gently, even as we grow older. Thank you for spending these moments with me. I hope you walk into your home tonight and feel just a little bit more at peace. You deserve that. We all do.